Hello and welcome to another stream. Hello and welcome. Hopefully we're going to have another great evening talking all things cybersecurity. So let's start it off. Let's set this off as well. Hello guys coming in. Good evening indeed. Another miserable evening outside. Hopefully more better evening indoors chatting about cybersecurity and answering any questions, and hopefully you guys seen some of my cybersecurity role explanation series, and hopefully that's been helpful. So we're gonna see how many people we're gonna have today and have some fun chatting all things cybersecurity. Hopefully we'll get a lot of people in here. Coming in and chatting with us. Hello guys, welcome coming in. Another evening, another cybersecurity Q&A live. Hopefully we get some familiar faces, we get some people and update on the progress on their cybersecurity career journey, and get to answer some great questions. Welcome guys coming in. Another live, another chat with our cybersecurity folks. Those of you who are new to joining as well, guys, if you haven't seen, there is a post and there is a video. We started building Telegram community as well for people to hang out, for people to learn together, share their expertise and how they, developing their cybersecurity careers. So hopefully, if you want to join, you can join, guys. That will be helpful. Yeah. Drop a question, of course. Let us know your question, and hopefully we can answer. Those who are new as well, guys, just to kind of cover a bit and give a bit of background. I've been in cybersecurity for over 10 years, pretty much. Covered most of the cybersecurity roles that are possible until kind of 3 years ago. I got to cybersecurity leadership. So, since I started creating some of the, I guess, content about cybersecurity, there's, loads of DMs, loads of comments, and I don't necessarily always have the opportunity to be able to answer all of those. So, doing those lives, hopefully we can help a lot more people, and hopefully people come with some great questions, so we can try and help them. What courses should I do in college to become a junior analyst? You mean junior SOC analyst? I don't know what, courses. I mean, it depends what you're doing in college. You need to also cover. I mean, the most important thing is you need to cover things like systems and hardware and operating systems. So covering the material from A+ is an important point. You need to learn networking, so Network Plus. You don't necessarily need to do the exam, but you need to get a knowledge from those two certifications. And then probably the most important one that you need to do is Security Plus. Once you go to Security Plus, then it's about, it's about skills and building skills. About, things like, try hack me, Let's Defend, Blue Team Online labs, and then it's about moving into building your own home lab. Home labs are the most important thing that you're ever going to do in your life, to build skills. And, there's some few videos I dropped about recently, which are really important, where I think people miss is that, if you just Google SOC analyst interviews, 99% of the questions are, oh, what is firewall? What is the difference between IDS and IPS? What is the difference between hashing and encryption? Yes, you can answer those questions, but that's only a small part of the interview. Biggest part of the interview is going to ask, how to differentiate between different vulnerabilities. How do you prioritize incidents when there's, loads of incidents happening at once? How do you investigate, cybersecurity incident? Stuff like that. I've been studying network protocols. What other aspects of cybersecurity should I study? Well, network protocols is just the beginning. You need to obviously know hardware, know operating systems, and then you need to learn cybersecurity fundamentals, obviously, and then it's about, skills. I'm on a very niche side of TikTok. I'm loving this. Good stuff. Yeah. What are some of the hardest interview questions for a SOC analyst for a security role? Well, some of the ones that I just covered, James. Things like, talk me through a most difficult cybersecurity incident that you've dealt with before. How do you prioritize, vulnerability management, or how do you prioritize different vulnerabilities in an operating system? Talk me through a scenario how you would investigate impossible travel alert. Talk me through a scenario how you would investigate phishing alert. So these are the kind of ones that normally you won't learn from the books, and you need to kind of play around and get into the minds of other SOC analysts. Need to play around with home labs and sort of understand what are the mechanisms to prevent those incidents, how to investigate, how to prioritize those. So yeah. Hackers Arise. Yeah, I haven't heard of that, Scorpion. So yeah, it's a good information again to share with people. Can I get a Telegram? I'm doing cybersecurity. I don't have a Telegram link with me, T. But as I say, if you go into my videos and stuff, there is a picture section saying why you should join my Telegram, and there's a link in that description. Or hopefully, maybe somebody in the chat can drop a. I think the chat doesn't allow to drop you links in here, so going to set up my Kali Linux VM at some point soon. Yeah, good stuff. Exactly. I always say Kali Linux, Wazoo, and Windows Server. That's the best home lab that you're going to set up. Wazoo acts as your SIEM and your EDR. You go Kali to do an attacks on Windows Server. You can push logs from Windows Server into Wazoo or Security Onion, and then play around with that. There's the best place to learn SOC analyst. Well, it depends what you want to learn. Theory, you can learn from all the courses, but the best place to learn is home labs. Everyone says that. Every stream I get, loads of people want to get into pen testing. To be fair, it's near impossible to get into pen testing if you haven't got any experience in cybersecurity. So everyone has an aspirations, but I think loads of people will understand and quickly learn that it's near impossible to go into pen testing. Yeah, injection. Yeah, there's various kinds of. Yeah, it's good to learn all of these attack scenarios and stuff like that. Yeah, but Isaac, I'm not talking about, you don't need to have a degree or certs to be a pen tester. That's not the thing. I'm just saying that there is no, it's very limited availability of getting pen tester entry level jobs. And pen testers, you need to have a lot of skills. Yes, you can get into pen testing, but I'm saying there are easier ways to build experience and then move into pen testing than, from someone who's completely newbie trying to get into pen testing. Because I see that every day, there's loads of people who want to get into pen testing, but it's very, very difficult. Sam says, "Hey man, I've got an awesome post I'm sharing soon on LinkedIn. I've intercepted a group of 3 who were credential harvesting." Yeah, good stuff, Sam. Looking forward to see the post. Would be interesting to know, Isaac, although how long it took you to get into the pen testing job. Um, different role, take it up ethical. Yeah. Do you think AI will affect the cybersecurity job market in the future? I think it affects, definitely will affect, King, but I don't think it will affect as much as people think or as much as they anticipate. I think, cybersecurity obviously is eliminating a lot of sort of the entry level kind of stuff. Look at SOC level 1 kind of jobs. A lot of companies and MSPs are kind of replacing that with AI. AI is great at sifting through vast amounts of data, and it's great at kind of looking at that space. But it's not great at doing human intelligence stuff. So I think it's going to be a helpful tool, but it's not going to necessarily replace people. Well, it's I think most of the sets has always been a cash cow, and that's kind of I've been talking about this a lot. I always say to people, people always say, "Oh, what cert should I do next?" Certs are not the most important thing. You need maybe 1 or 2 to kind of bypass the HR and ATS kind of system requirements, but as soon as you get 1 cert or so, that's enough. It's all about skills development. It's all about hands-on stuff. You know, there's no magical cert that's gonna give you, amazing next job or role. Half of them you can bypass as long as you done the labs, as long as you built your own kind of tools, your own projects. It's way more important than getting a cert. Um, Vincent, again, you need to clarify the question. What do you want to learn? Cybersecurity is massive. You can't learn cybersecurity. What do you want to do? You want to be SOC analyst, GRC analyst, security engineer, pen tester? That's completely different things. So again, these are questions are very common, and sometimes it feels like if you guys really want to be in cybersecurity, you need to do your homework. You need to you need to understand at least some part of cybersecurity instead of saying, "Oh, I just want to do cybersecurity." That sounds, like you know, cybersecurity might not be not for you. Yeah, and just to add as well, what Isaac is saying, um, that's kind of the reason why I created this Telegram group, and whether it's Discord, get into the communities, get to hang out to people who are learning, who are building their careers, who are already in the cybersecurity. People who already done it is the best way to learn, is the best way to to hang out. That's what I always say. Building your career and getting into cybersecurity, the best way is go to conferences, find cybersecurity communities where you can hang out and learn from people, and kind of uh, that's the way you're going to pave your path. That's the way you're going to learn from other people who already done that. So yeah, definitely. Would you think about ESET internet security with interactive firewall enabled? I'm not sure I get the question. What do I think about a random security tool? Um, there are loads of interactive firewalls that kind of does similar things. So it all depends on the use case, and it all depends on the ecosystem. You know, there are a number of firewalls. There's a number of web application firewalls that works differently, and it all depends on your company's ecosystem. What kind of works for you? Cybersecurity it's so easiest field if you learn well. I'm not sure what's the question here, and I work for cybersecurity distributor. I just sent an invite to connect. Feel free to accept it back. Cool. Sounds good, T. Yeah, exactly. Isaac, I think, I've made so many different friends in cybersecurity, and as I always say, LinkedIn and stuff like that is a great tool. I'm always talking about, building a personal brand in cybersecurity is so important. Getting to meet people, connections. You never know which connection is going to help and which connection is going to open the door. As long as you are, you treat them with respect. You want to learn. You want to hang out with people. So that's always going to be helpful. Even now, I always say, yes, I'm growing. I'm doing some stuff on TikTok. I'm growing stuff on YouTube. But LinkedIn is my biggest platform. I got over, 18,000 connections, and it brought me some great stuff. Some of the connections here, for example, this week I've been, CSO magazine is writing an article about me. I'm going in 2 weeks in Athens to present for one of the cybersecurity companies. I'm doing a webinar for IC Squared on CISO Life. I'm getting board advisory positions in various cybersecurity companies. So, building and consistently being on LinkedIn, I think, is an important part of the journey of your cybersecurity journey. So do not neglect it, guys. Yeah, good stuff. Good to know that you got some great friends in the cybersecurity community, Isaac. Yeah, but any firewall does the same thing, Anonymous. So there's millions of firewalls that can achieve the same thing. So ESET is nothing different. Any firewall will allow or deny traffic, and nowadays there's AI enabled firewalls, there's behavior enabled firewalls. They all do the same thing. Yeah, no problem. Have a look. You're gonna find this link. There is probably I did a couple of videos, but you'll see a picture post about Telegram community. No, I'm not in network security. I'm in cybersecurity leadership. I've been in cybersecurity for over 10 years, Aaron. But yeah, I'm currently a CISO. How is to make cybersecurity as a business day? Well, there's, you can build a cybersecurity tool or a product. You can do cybersecurity consultancy services. There's millions of ways to make cybersecurity as a business. Yeah. Try to do that. Try to use and get and utilize the LinkedIn to the max. Let's go live. Found bug. Can you see my comment? Yes, we can see your comment, Emran. How to enter SOC Analyst Tier 1. Pass couple of certifications, XF, and build skills. It's all about skills. It's all about home labs and preparing and and understanding how to use the tools that SOC analysts would use. How do you become a malware analyst? Again, same thing. Autocon is, malware analyst is obviously probably a bit harder because you require sort of forensic analysis, understanding, and tools. It's kind of similar to what I covered in the video. You'd use similar skills and tool sets, what incident responder does. But there are specific courses for malware analysts. You need to be quite good at understanding code and being able to reverse engineer and understand to read the code that malware is comprised of. Try pen testing directly. Best advice to make money. I'm gonna take Security Plus right now. Cool, good stuff. Best roadmap is if you need to learn cybersecurity, please try to understand more about IT. Yeah, exactly. You know, lots of people, I think sometimes, you know, here there are some bad people advising people, you know, just to, you know, jump and do, you know, jump in straight away, do Security Plus, neglecting, you know, the basics, the hardware, the networking, IT fundamentals. How can you secure a system when you don't understand how the system works, how the network works? You can't skip those steps. There's a very important part of the, you know, advice. Any advice on where to start for cyber risk management and threat modeling? Any good resources to study? Well, obviously, you know, OWASP is the resource for threat modeling. They got even tools. There is Microsoft threat modeling tool. So explore these. For risk management, how to measure anything in cybersecurity risk is an amazing book to read texter. So have a look and definitely dive into that book. How is documentation done in cybersecurity? Is it important? Yes, documentation is going to be important. Obviously, there are differences in how much you document based on the roles. So, for example, pen testing, you know, you need to write reports based on what you found, how you found vulnerabilities, how to fix them. SOC, you're going to document incidents and what you've done. You know, in GRC, you're going to create documents and policies, procedures, build governance frameworks and stuff like that. So yeah, documentation, you know, is never going to disappear and it's always going to be there. You need to be able to evidence and document what you've done and stuff like that. XOR for the win, I assume, was that Aaron. He says, Amaris, when you get time, please do us a step-by-step a YouTube video on how to set up a home lab. Yeah, I can have a look and try to do that. I haven't touched VirtualBox in a little while, but I'll create a setup and walk you through, guys, if you're struggling with something like that. We can definitely do something like that. Yeah, we can organize something like that. Peace. No problemo. Yes, I have used Wazoo. It's been a while ago, but yes, Aaron, I have used Wazoo before. Obviously, Wazoo is open source. It's kind of nowadays it's more used for training. You're rarely going to find that in sort of decent sized organization because they use, you know, proper tools. But Wazoo is a great open source tool that you can use for free. You know. Can I start network plus security plus then ethical hacking course? Patrick, you can start whatever you want, you know, but, you know, obviously there's people here like Isaac who told, you know, he broke into ethical hacking, but, you know, it all depends what's your path, what you want to do. You can start any course you want, but the path and the certs and the skills where you build all depends on your target goal role, what you want to do. I was just wondering if I could get the link for the teller. I'll probably create a new video because it won't let me I can't drop a link here in the chat, but I'll create a new video to announce it again and just have a look on my channel and then yeah, you can definitely create a link for Telegram. We get more people in there. Is it real that the job market is really bad right now? I don't think it's that bad. I think it's bad in my field, in sort of leadership. I don't think it's that bad. Okay, yeah, there you go. Sam's got an advice. I don't think it's that bad. I think it's, you know, market has always been not great, but I think the problem is people been sold lies, and they do one cert, they have no real hands-on skills, and they never could find a job. I get messages every single day. Somebody's done, I've done CCNA, I can't find cybersecurity job. Of course you're not going to find cybersecurity job if you just done CCNA or you just done Security Plus and that's all you've done. It takes a lot more work, grit, determination. I always say, that's why I made the other day even a video saying, look, cybersecurity I don't think is for everyone. People have distorted ideas that, it's such a high paying job, I'll just do a couple of certs and all of a sudden I'm going to be landing cybersecurity jobs left, right, and center. It's not that easy. Do you think passkeys are unhackable? You mean unhackable? Well, it depends how long the passkeys are. It all depends on the length, day. But the problem is, I guess, passkeys are always, dropped, shared, and it's not about hacking. You see, the problem is sometimes with these things like passkeys, people leave passkeys in Slacks, in open internet, so there's other ways to find them. How many questions for CompTIA Security Plus exam? Oh, I don't remember. I haven't done Security Plus in probably 6-7 years. What should I specialize in cybersecurity? What's the most relevant and best paid? I don't think that's the wrong question, OE. You should not specialize what is best paid or most relevant. You should specialize what you love and where your skills lend itself. When it says, hi, I've built a home lab in which I installed malware in a sandbox which disabled Windows Defender. I uncovered everything using disk and memory forensics. I'm seeking job. Any advice for me? Well, then, whatever you've done, create a blog, document that journey, document all of those great stuff that you guys doing while you are, building those home labs. Update your CV, showcase the skills that you've got. Someone's, and just, another thing. While I'm answering these questions, I'll add here, guys. There are other ways to get cybersecurity job, just instead of just blindly applying for roles. I always said personal branding. Message 10 people on LinkedIn every single day. That's 300 people a month. Talk to people. Ask them how they broke into cybersecurity. Make friends. You never know when these companies are going to be hiring. Chances are you become friends. They're going to refer you. Instead of you competing against hundreds of people, now you're competing against 2-3 people when you're being referred. Cisco ethical hacking cert, good. I don't know. I don't think so, Change. Talking about ethical hacking, there are loads of various kind of certs. For me, personally, I think there's 2 gold standards in ethical hacking certs. There's OSCP and PNPT. These are the 2 ones, if you want to do a certificate, are probably the ones that can advance your career the most. I think Miss Sam are in contact. Okay, good stuff. 2023, I started diploma in IT within 1 year, then for full stack self-study, and now cybersecurity. Good stuff, Eng. Good stuff. Good to hear that. Do you recommend cybersecurity to one of your own? I'm not sure. What does that mean? Is it true that there are no more entry-low roles in tech? No, that's not true. There's plenty of roles, help desk roles. There's plenty of IT roles. I always say sometimes, even... if you're completely new to cybersecurity, you're completely new to technology, sometimes getting into stuff like help desk or any entry-level IT role is great to building that foundational knowledge. And there's plenty of these kind of roles, and then it's easier to move into cybersecurity from there. Ever worked on pen testing using Hexstrike or other MCPs? No, I have not. Can you highlight a roadmap for cybersec profession? There is no roadmap for cybersec profession. There is a roadmap for specific roles in cybersec. PowerMax. What about hardware level security, mostly mobile? Where can I learn this? Well, you can't really do much about hardware security for mobile. Because normally you get a built device from them. So there are specific... I don't know if there are specific hardware courses. Obviously, you just need to learn hardware and how things work, how to do better. Do you use gotomypc.com? No, I've never used that, T. What I say? I've written a blog and talked about my project B-Sides London this year. I have an interest in network traffic analysis and DFAR. What skills should I learn? Network traffic and digital forensics and incident response. If you want to do RAMIM incident response, I think I even published a video today on TikTok about that. The two great, obviously GCIH is going to be extremely expensive, but OffSec does IR 200 certificate, which is great for incident response. And there is ECIR from EC Council, and then you can do digital forensics. It's all about learning FTK. If you learn how to use FTK, then you're going to be great at it. What else was it? I'm 46 years old and earned a degree in cybersecurity in 2017, but I have not worked in cybersecurity field due to other commitments. What advice would you give me considering my age? Age is not a problem, Ola. It's all about skills. So obviously you got a degree, but you need to probably do Security Plus certificates. You need to refresh the knowledge. There's quite a few years gap in there, and then it's all about home lab skills and stuff like that. Sorry, let me just catch up. Wasn't talking about yeah. You need to keep renewing Security Plus after 3 years. No, doctor, I don't think so. I don't renew stuff. You probably, once you had Security Plus, you're probably going to advance your career and do some other certificates. But you have to remember as well, if you do any CompTIA certs, they all automatically renew the certs underneath. So for example, if you do CYSA Plus, that will renew your Security Plus automatically when you pass exam. But once you had Security Plus in your initial journey, you probably advanced in your career that Security Plus is no longer relevant. So I'll let all of them, all my, especially technical certs, all of them expired. I only kept, I think, CSSP and CSSM currently. Hey, Samir. What's the best standard to follow for incident response? Standard, NIST. NIST is the best gold standard, and most of the time is used there, and everyone follows NIST in terms of incident response. What do you use to load in your labs? Hyper-V? No, I don't use Hyper-V. I use VirtualBox. We just got ISO 27001. Good stuff, T. Yeah. We've got ISO 3 years ago. So we've been running, and I've just been rolling that program because obviously we got first in UK. We've just done ISO for US, and we're going to do one for Australia as well, and then we're going to do SOC 2. Cybersecurity, it depends on understanding widely about IT. Yes, indeed, Ench. Yes, indeed. Sec AI Plus is going to be a great one. Possibly, but I think again, Sam, that's going to be that's mainly going to be theory, and it's probably a great to add on your CV. But in order to properly understand AI, you'll probably need to do a bit more. When understand what's computer move to network, Security Plus, N plus, CCNA, CH, and more. How you want? Hack the Box. Hack the Box is cool, but Hack the Box, obviously, Hack the Box was previously, mainly just for pen testing and hacking. They kind of tried to redefine themselves. But I always say, I love Hack the Box. I love Try Hack Me. But I have one reservation. They are great to start out. Problem is, both of them give you a simulated environment where everything is presented nicely to you. I think building Home Lab gives you way more skills because you learn how to troubleshoot. You learn how to build and connect things which are not available to you in Try Hack Me and Hack the Box. So they're great to begin with, but I think, once you learn the certain things, then it's about upgrading to Home Labs. and they are, they're pretty kind of intuitive. It's pretty simple, VirtualBox, Hyper-V. They, once you know one, I think they're pretty much kind of the same. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Home Lab is all the way, and especially Home Lab. Home Lab, you can, you go hack the box. There is one exercise and you complete it. Home Labs, you can do whatever you want. I always say you build tools. You can do all kinds of. You run PowerKali Linux. You run all kinds of exploit attacks, or say on your Windows server. But then it's about you being creative. You can then plug in Wireshark and look how attack looks from network perspective. You can look at Wazoo how attack looks from endpoint perspective. Then you can correlate all of the logs and look in a seam. You can play around in that lab environment and understand and learn so much more. Then you can all of a sudden install OpenVAS. You can scan and find vulnerable and old versions of Windows Server. You can learn how to do vulnerability analysis. You can learn how to then patch those and fix those vulnerabilities, write a reports of how you prioritized these certain vulnerabilities. The play and exercises becomes endless. And to play around with Wireshark today was good. Likewise with NIST. We even went on to... Yeah, exactly. And yeah. You can do dual boot, or as I say, you can just use VirtualBox, so you can build the whole network virtualized environment. So as long as you got decent amount of RAM, it should be okay. Obviously, nowadays it's a bit tricky. RAM's got crazy expensive. But yeah, you got your PowerKali Linux, you got Hashcat, John the Ripper, you got Hydra, you go Dirtbuster, play around to your heart's content. If you want, even go upgrade and run Burp Suite. Yes, Aaron, I've done cloud security. So I started my career 10 years ago. I was working in a SOC. Then I started managing SOCs and architecting SOCs. And then I moved into cloud security engineering and cloud security architecture. So yeah, I've done Azure, I've done AWS. Both. I've done both. I've learned how to use and deploy all of those controls, because you have to remember, you can learn, for example, AWS security specialty, you can learn AZ500, but nowadays in an enterprise environment, nobody is going to deploy security controls through graphical interface. So you need to learn also things like CloudFormation, Terraform, because they are infrastructure as code languages, because you're going to be scripting your security tool deployments in the cloud. So yeah, I've done Terraform, learn how to use security tools. Then I went and did all of the Kubernetes courses. So I've done CKA, Kubernetes Administrator, CKS, Certified Kubernetes Security Specialty. That's probably the hardest certificate. I've got probably 30, 40 certificates over the years. But the hardest certificate I've ever done in my life was probably CKS. That thing was brutal. And it requires so much stuff to learn. Like, people do not understand how hard it is to learn Kubernetes security, CSSM or CSSP. I've got both. Actually, I'm putting them up. So there is my CSSP. We just need to get some more tape. I'm going to hang my CSSM, and that's my cybersecurity master's degree. But yeah, I go both. I watch the YouTube and then practice like Hydra, Wireshark, and Sec tools, Zockfish, Ucanfish. Yeah, good stuff. Good to see it. And you looks like you've done the hard graft, and that's what I'm saying. That's how that's how people really differentiate, and that's how people build careers. And you need to get off your backside. You need to learn from others, play around, practice. And then you can achieve something. People asking people to coach them and teach them, to me that sounds lazy. And I get comments every single day, oh, please teach me cybersecurity. If you're asking that means probably cybersecurity is not for you. For me, your guys too kind. Nobody can call themselves an expert, but yeah, I've done enough. I've done enough in cybersecurity, so I think hopefully I'm qualified to talk and hopefully help you guys. And I've been around the block, so I know a bit about cybersecurity. What's your favorite AI? ChatGPT, Gemini? For me, Airbnb, Claude, because I use Claude and ChatGPT, but I cancelled my ChatGPT. I think Claude beats anything for creative writing, code development. Because I do a lot of research with Claude. I do. It helps me write articles and some of the materials, and Claude's been beating ChatGPT every single day. So there's no competition there. What's your craziest cybersecurity incident? I had a few. We had back in the day. I was working for a big pizza chain, without naming names. So we had business email compromise in Sweden, based on phishing, and then it starts spreading through directors and stuff. So yeah, it was quite hands on, and there was loads of stuff happening. But yeah, I used to love it. So that's you probably guys love the story. So Eng knows stuff as well, so I can talk about this a bit as well. So back in the day, I worked in an organization where we had still our on-prem directory. So those of you guys, again, something to learn, guys, an exercise for you. You can build a server and build on-prem directory. On-prem directory, there is a file called I think it's called ending DTIM or DTI or something like that, which basically contains all of the hashes from your Active Directory. So all of the password hashes. You can download that file. There you go, ntds.dit. You can download that file and drop it in your Hashcat or John the Ripper, and you can start cracking and see which passwords you can crack. So I used to do that every single month. So I cracked company CEO's password in like 3 seconds. His password was Ferrari1. And then obviously we sent a nice email saying, oh, please CEO, change your password because it's crap, because any hacker can crack it in 2 seconds. So it's if any company where you end up working has on-prem Active Directory, that's a cool exercise that you can do monthly just to teach people about cybersecurity. Yeah, RockU, but RockU is kind of probably too little of a dictionary to run. There are bigger dictionaries you can find in Kali Linux to run, Aaron. But yeah, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's a cool thing to try, a cool thing to do, a cool thing to experiment as well. So if you can again build an Active Directory in your virtualization, and you can do a nice write-up, add it on your CV for a blog, for LinkedIn, share expertise with other people, teach others. I always say to people, the more you post on LinkedIn, there's always some going to be one step behind you who's going to find whatever you post helpful. So you need to step outside the box, step outside your comfort zone, and do that kind of stuff, and you'll see success. But yeah, good stuff. Drop any more questions, guys, if you have. I'm gonna hang out for another 10-15 minutes. I'm gonna drop another event when I'm gonna do the next live. But yeah, hopefully you guys, as I said, check out the Telegram community, check out my YouTube in my bio. There are some great videos. I did some videos about cybersecurity interviews, about Security Plus practice questions, which should be helpful to kind of understand and think how they're asking the questions. I've done a video how to build a home lab. If you want an interesting cloud project, there is a video on my YouTube how to build a honeypot on AWS, and then you can get there's Elasticstash dashboard that shows how the attacks are happening, how the hackers, what kind of vulnerabilities they're trying to exploit, what passwords they're trying to do, and stuff like that. What's your last advice to be greater in cybersecurity, please, sir? It's very generic. I think for me, the most important thing, and I probably add this into, I think cybersecurity, the most important thing is never assume that you are the smartest person in the room. I've read this great book about smartest person in the room. Every single day, there is an opportunity to learn something. So never assume that you know more than someone else. So being receptive and vulnerable to learn from other people is a great skill. Be curious and constantly developing yourself. Cybersecurity is such a industry and place where it rewards people who are curious and consistently sort of learning and developing stuff. So, and one thing I think I've mentioned to some of you guys, maybe you haven't heard previously. There are a few books that really changed my cybersecurity career and trajectory and how I think about cybersecurity. So there is a guy called Greg van der Gast. He wrote a book called Rethinking InfoSec. It's an amazing book, and it talks a lot about. I'll give you one important example from it. In cybersecurity, a lot of people are hell bent on buying more tools, fixing more misconfigurations, fixing more vulnerabilities. But the problem is, if we are every week adding 20 vulnerabilities in our estate, but we're only fixing 10, that means the backlog is increasing and growing and growing and growing, and we're never going to catch up. You need to be doing a proper root cause analysis of why these bad things are happening in the first place and how we can prevent them from happening in the first place. So proper preventative measures instead of just fix more and more and more. I always say, for example, that's why my approach to cloud is as well. There are great tools like CSPM, Cloud Posture Management tools, which shows you what's misconfigured. But if you just look at these tools, you are continuously just trying to fix things. But if you write cloud security policies that says, okay, this virtual machines should be only built because they should be encrypted. That's how the firewall should be set up. That means if somebody tries to build something vulnerable, the policy is going to break it. That's how you need to think about how we can prevent bad things from happening in the first place instead of just fixing stuff. When this proletarian says, I sign my own kernel images and export it to UEFI. But is that too niche, I wonder? Not necessarily. There's always going to be, you have to remember, proletarian, there are environments where security is, you need that much security, and there are environments where you need that much security. So going into places like, quant trading houses, crypto places, there are places who do a lot more security than your kind of common normal organization. So there are use cases for everything. There are use cases like that where probably in governments where they're going to need this as well. So there are always stuff like that. You don't have the mindset. I don't know, Aaron. I think everyone can achieve the mindset. I think it's all about, you get that through years of experience because you need to understand the law. I think sometimes, whenever we come into cybersecurity, we have a naivety in the beginning because we think, oh, we're going to fix things. It takes years of experience and learning to understand that, A, we can't fix everything. We can't fix every vulnerability. We can't fix every risk, every misconfiguration. It takes years of experience to learn to let go and find how to prioritize things and how to pick the next big thing. It takes years to learn that we need to do good enough security, not the best security, because business still has to be available. Business still has to make money because, you can do the best security. You can just unplug everything. But, that's what it is. Sam says, I'm creating my own lab so I can further strengthen my attack and defense methods as well. Yeah, exactly, Sam. That's exactly what you need to be doing, how to build and develop skills and how you can advance and learn more. And then, the kind of, the amount of exercises and stuff that you can do, the world's your oyster. There's so much stuff you can learn and do that, it's never ending. And then, once you prepare yourself, then it's about using those kind of tools, tactics, techniques, personal brand, about actually learning and getting into the job. Because once you get in the job, the learning is going to multiply 10 times. Because you're going to have a team, you're going to have people around you who you can learn more. Hey, Sham. Well, good to see you here as well. I think I saw, were you live earlier today or yesterday? I saw you were live as well recently. How you been, Sham? You got a question for us? We've been chatting all kinds of things today, Sham, from digital forensics to we got some experienced people in here today as well. Well, exactly, Aaron. I always say, cybersecurity starts with visibility. You can't protect what you can't see. So if your security tools only has 90% of coverage, that 10% can be your downfall. Do you from Lithuania? Yes, I am. MAH, whatever that name is. Yes, I am indeed. In my job, I think about hardening and zero trust, but really on actually testing. Okay, good stuff. I was live earlier, been doing my cybersecurity news live. Okay, Shams, good stuff. What's new? What's new? Give me your big predictions for 2026. Big predictions. Yeah. I went to University of Portsmouth. Yeah, T. Well, you never asked, so yeah. Big predictions for 26. Sham says. I think it's more of the same. I think obviously there are things changing and shaping. Obviously, AI is here to stay. I don't think I've heard of Portsmouth Grammar. I'd done my university online, T, so I never stepped a foot in Portsmouth University itself. AI is here to stay. I think AI usage and applicability, I think, is changing. I think one thing that is definitely going to change. There are a lot of organizations who are running towards AI. I think the learning curve and the cost of running your own models in AI in 2026, I think that's going to be very prohibitive. So there are great AI tools that I don't think most companies don't need to do anything with AI in terms of building their own AI tools and projects. So I think, leveraging AI frameworks, leveraging MCP. There is a guy I follow on TikTok, I don't remember his name. He talks a lot of good stuff about AI, but you can do so much more with whatever you can think of that you need a use case, there is a model for it that can do that. So with a bit of RAG and a bit of stuff, you can kind of do it. So you don't need to build your own AI models. So AI security coming from, for example, I think the two things that it's getting bigger and bigger, and that's going to really differentiate people is identity and access management is growing, is really growing big. So another thing for you guys probably to explore is career and identity and access management. That's a big field in cybersecurity. Data security. So DSPM, data security posture management tools are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So, and they're now running AI because, if you remember back in the day, we used to do regex sort of AI data classification, which used to be crazy with false positives and riddles. So I think DSPM with AI empowering is going to be big and it's going to be growing. So data security, DSPM, IAM, and another thing which I was actually invited to present, machine identities. So if you look at latest data, Sham, for every single personal identity in an organization, there's about 80 machine identities. So companies have, API keys, all kinds of identities running and getting visibility and understanding what these identities have access to, where these API keys end up in Slacks and stuff like that. So tooling and visibility in that space is going to be very important. So I guess that's my 2026 predictions from what I see in the ground. What is the best techniques in your opinion for payload obfuscation? I haven't really delved into that space, Mad. So I can't really help you much in that space in terms of payload obfuscation. I'm sure there are techniques. I haven't really delved much. I'm sure you can probably find this stuff on Metasploit, how to obfuscate some of the payloads and stuff. Probably running reverse shells as well. So that's kind of less discoverability in terms of payload obfuscation. But yeah, couple more minutes. Last questions, guys, if you have any. If not, it was pleasure. I'm probably going to do another live, or probably now next week. Isn't PKI the solution for machine identity? Can't you just link the cert to a specific access? Yeah, but that's only, PKI is public key infrastructure and it's sort of certificate management. You have things like, for example, in Azure, you're not necessarily doing PKI. That's PKI is more so for sort of, for kind of websites and authentication stuff. For example, your machines that, or your, for example, virtual machine needs to authenticate and get data from database. So they will have a machine identity, which not necessarily sits under your normal PKI solution. So, and then, how these, kind of keys and stuff is shared in the organization, that's where the real problem becomes, proletarian. Them getting exposed or dropped somewhere in a internet open bucket, and all of a sudden, somebody has access to that. Yeah, you probably can do that. That's probably a way to do it, proletarian. But again, it's down to probably people's skill sets and knowledge and how easy it is to do that. Watch a video on SOC. If I follow the strategy this year, I can apply for a job. Yeah, of course, doctor. You just follow the strategy, build the skills, build the knowledge and stuff like that. Active Directory PKIs. Yeah, but as you guys can see, stuff like that. What happens if the cert is leaking? You still need to have a certain visibility, because you can set all this up, but gaining visibility and understanding what certs have access to what, how many of them are, and understanding of, is it coming from your estate, or, a threat actor is potentially using the cert or key and exfiltrating data. That's where the real problems happens with those machine identities. And you probably can maybe solve some of them, because I looked before at, since we're working with Terraform, we've been looking at, because obviously most of the cloud is deployed through Terraform code. You can use Terraform Vault for certificate management and automation of stuff. So I think that's quite good stuff. Often cases where hackers, scammers get catched. Hackers and scammers, they leave, nothing is untraceable now kind of day. So, there are experts who can find out the crumbs, and, there are different, obviously, hackers. Yeah, but for example, as we're saying, a proletarian, unless you go the tools in place to gain visibility into that, how do you know if the cert has leaked? And that's where the key point is, having tools to understand when the cert is leaked. Because that's not necessarily, easy or always possible with your normal tooling. That's why I think, it's kind of becoming a big space, and where organizations are investing in sort of machine identity security tooling, because traditional tools don't do that. What are the most often cases where hackers, scammers get caught? Oh no, Aaron. Company insists we need Darktrace. There is a, within cybersecurity community, Darktrace is a laughing stock, and everyone laughs at Darktrace, especially with their sales and marketing tactics. And, I only ever used one tool from Darktrace, which I think has some use. We used, some time ago, I used Darktrace Antigena, which was kind of email security, sort of DLP kind of tool. They used to zap emails. Because we used to use Mimecast as a sort of email proxy, and then if any emails skipped through the proxy net, Darktrace Antigena used to zap the email from users' inbox if it was a spam. But other than that, I'm not a fan of Darktrace tooling. Good EDR. The best EDRs are sort of, in my eyes, this top 3 probably. CrowdStrike, Sentinel-1, and I think Microsoft Defender for Endpoint is pretty good. But yeah, that's probably the top 3. Darktrace is definitely not a good EDR. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you see them all the time with the huge boots, and they're spending millions on. I think there was a funny meme they used to run around Darktrace that they 80% of their employees are sales, and they never invest in R&D. So Darktrace used to buy some great tools, but the problem is they never invest in any development of those tools. So over the years, these tools became crap because they never really built anything inside themselves. Do you like Kaseya tool products? Kaseya is questionable anywhere in the Western world because I think Kaseya kind of originated from Russia. So nobody in the Western world really wants to buy kind of Russian originated tools because of fears of backdoors and stuff like that. Pen testing, you should have advanced programming skills. Yeah, you need a good level of Python, you need a good level of Bash, potentially PowerShell and stuff like that. Yeah, you need to be pretty good at that. No, not yet, Proletarian. I think, again, I always, think about encryption and stuff like that. I talk to people. Encryption is not something that you need to be fearful or something that you can build yourself internally. Encryption, you just use the standard. Again, there's going to be a fear of it probably at some point, but the problem is, or the good thing is, I guess, quantum computing is years away from being accessible to people. So until it's available, quantum computing is going to break the current encryption standards. But obviously, in terms of worrying about for work, no, I'm not worried. Whenever quantum becomes available, there's going to be quantum resistant encryption. Favorite seam and why? Probably, because I used it probably the most. For me, it's going to be Azure Sentinel. It does some amazing stuff. It has amazing playbooks. You can do a lot of play around. It's very easy to connect your data connectors. Pretty easy to learn the scripting language on Sentinel. So yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, whenever that kind of comes, there's always going to be new standards that's going to prevent it, Proletarian. So yeah. No, we haven't started using Security Copilot. Security Copilot is extremely expensive. So no, we haven't. We are deploying the normal Copilot, but not Security Copilot. But yeah, guys, 8:00. I'm gonna have to run. It's been a real pleasure. I'm gonna love you and leave you. Have an amazing evening. I'm gonna let you know when the next live is. Also, I'm gonna drop a message in the next in the Telegram chat as well. When is gonna be the next live? Guys, have a wonderful evening. We'll catch up next week on the next live. I'm gonna drop some more videos. There's some more roles in the cybersecurity role explaining series to come. So yeah, guys, it was a pleasure. I'll catch you soon. Have a good evening.